Welcome to Conversations with Garmamie. I'm joined by David Villarroel. How you doing, David?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Garmamie.
So, first of all, thank you for coming on here. I've been meaning to talk to you for quite some time, and I've been meaning to interview him for a while. And each time we planned to meet up, something happened, right?
That's great.
So we finally get to meet and talk. David is the co-founder of the Cauldron Kitchen, and here it reads on his card, it's a shared commercial kitchen serving the Ottawa food industry with a facility to grow and expand culinary dreams.
That's correct. Yes. Culinary dreams.
Yes.
People who have these great ideas to start a food business, essentially, right? And people are very passionate about food. And one of the things that is great about the place that I have in the Cauldron Kitchen, is that it's kind of a pot to explode any type of potential out of this cauldron, and to create really interesting business ideas.
Tell us what motivated you to co-found this thing? What happened? Give us the story behind the story.
Yeah, sure. So in 2013 and 2012, one of the things that I was looking a lot about was seeing how the food industry in Ottawa was working. I had a lot of people in my social circles that were starting food businesses. And so I would ask them, like, oh, how's it going with that business? How are you doing with it? What are some of the barriers, some of the things that they saw that, make it struggle? One of the underlying, you could say, barriers that most of these food businesses were talking about was the idea of having a space where they can just come in, do their business, right? Either if it's make a product or design a product or, flush out a product in some way, so that they can go in and then do it and then send it out to market. Owning your own kitchen is very expensive. And having that resource for you, essentially paying rent for one space that only you are using, was something that was a big barrier, a financial barrier for a lot of these small businesses. So understanding that, I realized, like, okay, well, this is something interesting that, seems to be some kind of an opportunity here, and essentially what it was. So I started doing a lot of internet investigating and finding out that there was a great website called culinaryincubator.com, and they had a map of the United States, and it was dotted with maybe about 200 some kitchens. And so you could click on the dot, get to their website, find out who they were and what they're doing. So I realized that, wow, this opportunity was something that that actually can be a business, can be something that is viable, essentially. And the whole idea of trying to use a shared space so that food businesses come in, take the time that they only need. They don't need it 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? Or maybe it's 10 hours a week. Maybe it's 15 hours a week. And with that, then they were able to, run their business out of them. And so seeing that this model, this kind of shared economy, shared kitchen model, was something that, people were experimenting with and trying it out, it kind of clicked in me. It was like, wow, Ottawa doesn't have this. Maybe it's time for something like this. So I went around to my social circle, where a lot of these food businesses, these small food businesses that we're a part of, and asking them, was like, well, what happens if, I start something like this? And instantly it was like, wow, that would be amazing, right? You should do that. You should try that.
So people were excited.
Oh yeah, people were very excited about the whole concept.
Why do you think? Why were they excited?
Well, first of all, it's because it was something that was needed, right? And I think the struggle that a lot of these small food businesses were going through, realizing if I did have this place that David's thinking about, sort of thing, how much easier would it be for me, right? The idea that to have a location where you can run your business and you can make it happen. Having one of the other things about a commercial kitchen is that the inspections, the regulations that are all part of it, right? That costs money as well. So maintaining those things, and so sharing that type of those expenses or those resources, right, was something else that attracted people. Like, of course, right? I don't need to own it all the time. I would love to share with this person or that person or this business and that business. It's something that I think would be it's like very beneficial for me, and it'd be beneficial for them. And, so I think people were really catching on to that whole, maybe that trend, that shared economy trend, and realizing, yeah, why not, right? We share cars, we share houses on Airbnb, right? All that stuff was just really growing at that moment. In time. So what happened then is after I kind of did a little bit of market research on how it would be in Ottawa, I realized that myself, I'm a professional, energy engineer. I have not a lot of culinary background in me. I do like to eat food, but making it...
Same here.
Yeah, of course, right?
We all do.
So,
yes.
exactly. And so I was like, hey, there's an opportunity there,
Right.
sort of thing, to see some really interesting food on my table or at the grocery store sort of thing. So I needed to consult with someone who was already in this industry and already like part of this business world of food businesses, right? The food business world. And that's when a friend of mine who has her own kitchen, she said, you know what, you should speak to this guy. I think this guy who owns the Piggy Market, his name is Dave Neal, and you should speak to him. I think if you pitch to him, I think he'd be really interested. And
This is the Piggy Market in Westboro.
That's right, the
Right.
Piggy Market in Westboro. Yeah, and so it's a delicatessen, and you can get great meats there. It's like a butcher shop. They have lots of amazing like cheeses from all over like Quebec and Ontario. They try to really do the local thing very, very strongly. And so even the meats that they get are local meats, and they have really great connections with a lot of the local farms. So I was a client and a customer of the Piggy Market, so I knew about them, and I like to shop there because I know where my money's going, essentially, right? And going to small business and going to this local farm that's down the road and all these types of things. That I'm very conscious about where I vote with my money.
You are, right?
With
As a
food.
consumer, yeah?
With food, definitely.
Interesting.
Right? It's
Okay.
it's very important. And it's sometimes you think about it and be like, wow, but it's so much more expensive. It's like, yeah, it is. And that's what it is. That's what we have to kind of absorb and just be like, yeah, good food, local money, all that stuff. It's expensive.
Right,
It takes
right.
time for that, right? And
it's quality product, right?
of course. And if it isn't, right, there's always someone else who's going to come in and bring it in, right? Yeah. And a lot of the thing for for local food is usually the transport. And that's where the quality gets lost a lot, right? And the movement of food is where quality kind of degrades. So obviously closer. So anyways, the point being that I kind of already understood where the Piggy Market stood on its values to the food economy, right? Knowing that they are a purveyor essentially of local foods and understanding what that local food movement is all about, and supporting local shops was really important. So I was like, okay, well, let me go talk to him. So it was a January morning, and it's funny because it's one of those like coincidental things that it was on my mind. Yeah. I dropped the kids off at school. And one of the things that I was walking to work or walking to take the bus, so it was snowing and just walking on Richmond Road, and suddenly way in the distance, I see Dave Neal, the co-owner, and he's walking to work in the other way. So I'm going this way and he's coming this way, and we literally just like run into each other on the street, and I was nervous. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is the moment I need to speak to him, right? And so he's coming closer and is like, hey, are you Dave Neal? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you're the owner of the Piggy Market, right? He's like, yeah, I co-own that part. He's like, yeah, I shop there. He's like, yeah, I've seen you before and stuff. Listen, I've got this idea that I want to pitch to you. And the mutual friend that we have, Pascal's Natural Ice Cream, Pascal is a friend of ours, both of ours. She told me to speak to you, and I'd like to start this kind of shared commercial kitchen. And he's like, okay, let's meet for a beer. Right? It's like, fine, because he was going to work and I was going to work. It's like, good. So we set up an appointment and a rendezvous, let's say, And and so that was it. It was like the first kind of like breaking the ice.
That's
on the
awesome
street.
that you did it right there and then.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You didn't
exactly, and it was almost
no doubt.
You know,
You just
exactly,
you know what I mean? Execute.
exactly. And it was all, you can almost say it was providence that the guy was walking on the street, and it was in my mind, and I was just like, all right, how am I going to do this?
You visualized.
Yeah, right. I was like visualizing it, or the other. You know, I was thinking, I was like, well, I could go to shop and just as he's working, be like, hey, you know, can we talk and stuff and. But it was just at that moment, right? It's just like, okay, this is it. And I guess I would say I would take, I'm a kind of guy who would like take the opportunity, right? And I see the opportunity and I try to grasp it as much as I can.
Good for
capture
you,
it.
Yeah.
So that initial encounter was quite, I was all pumped up, you know, a little adrenaline rush. It's like, oh wow, this is going to happen. This is going to be cool, you know? So thinking about my pitch. And so anyways, we met, I think it was about a week later. We met at a pub, a local pub here, and in Westboro. We sat down, and I said, "Look, this is what I'm interested in. I think it's there's some potential here. I think the timing is right." And he looks at me and he says, "David, you just pitched me my dream job." I'm like,
"Damn,
really?
Wow.
Like, okay, right?" So I was a little bit shocked. I was like, "Let's do it. Let's figure it out." So one of the things I think I really respect about him was that he came to me as like, okay, I don't know very much about you. You are a customer, right? I don't know who you are or whatever. And, you know, we get to know each other. So prove to me how serious you are. And I'm like, okay, what do you want? So he's like, write the whole business plan. Tell me how it's going to run. It's in your hands. Figure it out. Put it on paper, because that's a big, big thing about entrepreneurial, right? Is get things on paper. Get your ideas down. Flesh them out. How is this going to happen? How is this going to work? How is this? And so it's, give me that. I'll read through it. We'll edit it, go through it. I'll add my points to it, because obviously he's the expert. You know, he's the food kind of input, the food industry input to the business. So I was like, okay, I'll do it, right? So writing, finding templates online, all that type of stuff, and learning a lot about myself. Yeah.
Did you have experience previous to that in terms of writing business cases and
not that much? Not that much. I've always thought that like I'd love to get into a little business. I did do some entrepreneurial classes when I was doing my master's program in Sweden, and that was one of the things I kind of captured when I was in Sweden. When I was doing my master's there, I saw that there was a lot of real plug for the entrepreneurial spirit was very, very strong among the people and the students that were there. So I attended a couple of these kind of like conferences, entrepreneurial conferences, and I saw this guy get $100,000 for creating, and this was before like the apps started really coming big, right? And so this was 2007. And so I saw this guy coming up with this text message app system that would send you a Bible verse, right? Like every day, like a devotional thing, right? Sure. I think it was also from the Quran, and you could pick whatever scripture that you want, right? And so, and because of this guy got like $100,000 and was able to launch this business where people would like download this app or subscribe to this kind of service and get these scriptures downloaded right to their phone, right? Europe was quite a more advanced in phone technology at that point than compared to Canada. So I was like, wow, like that seems simple enough, right? And like these guys working hard to make that happen, and then Sweden just giving them these like incubators and things, just giving out money for this type of stuff. So I caught a bug there essentially, and it was always in the back of my mind. It's like, all right, I see, and I was looking for something to kind of looking for an opportunity to what it could be, right? I never thought it would be food. I always thought it might be somewhere in my field, but
you know, that's funny because a lot of people who get involved in entrepreneurship, they're always surprised by which sector or business that they invest in or stumble upon or start. You know, it's usually not where they think. You know, it should be. Like if one studied, say, you know what I mean? Like
I
it's
totally
completely
understand.
Outside of their bubble.
Yeah, it seems like I think, you know, now when I think about it, like if it was like a type of energy type of business or some kind of consulting in some way with energy, I think it would overwhelm me because the amount of detail and the knowledge I have, yeah, right, I can put all that into it, but it would be more of like just me feeding it information instead of actually trying to run a business, right? You have to almost kind of, I feel like you almost have to step away from your comfort zone and learn as you're going through it and be like, okay, this is how you do this. All right, I got to do this part now of the business. Like if it's the accounting or it's the book work, or if it's like the promotional stuff, right? Something that's way off. So it's almost like if you do follow your field of study, you kind of, you're more of like, let's say the content maker, right? You're providing the service or something like that rather than trying to run a business. You see what I mean? It's almost like the subject matter experts that we hear all about, right? And so maybe the business could fail because all you're focused on is like, oh yeah, the report has to be good, or like this product needs to be like this, and I'm going to work all night, tweaking it in the laboratory or however it is, right? Especially with like engineering and the things that you do in engineering. So it's so that's why I caught this bug and then falling into an opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like seeing an opportunity and be like, wow, this can happen, right? This is something that's interesting. And then also being validated many, many times, right? That was another big thing that as I was writing this business plan, the validation of the idea was very, very strong. And be like, really, you're going to do that? That would be amazing, like that would work really well, like, and right, and it's almost
You're talking
like
about the validation from other businesses involved in the culinary world, right?
Yeah, that's right. So other like food businesses and also other friends and family and yeah, just people I would meet and be like, oh yeah, what are you doing? And be like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. Like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Like I can see how that would work. And right. And like I was saying, there was, I guess, that mind frame of the idea of the shared economy, right? And so having a shared resource in this I wouldn't say it's like a trend, really, right? And capturing that, people were kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, so writing the business plan, getting it done, passing it into my future business partner, essentially saying, look, this is it. What do you think? It's like, all right, let's go through it, and making changes, going back and forth, passing it to other people, and then it's like, all right, so we've got something to go around. Pitch to like investors, essentially, right? Because we needed money. We knew that it would cost a lot of money to build a kitchen, as it is for any food business, right? But now realizing that we're going to diversify it or divest it into different people, right? Working at it, and so that kind of helps with and maintaining the expenses and costs. So yeah, so it was kind of interesting and like getting that part settled. And also making a friend, and essentially my business partner, making a partner and learning about each other was a big thing, right? Relationship building, and I'm very cognizant of that. It's like relationships are a big thing, right? Maintaining relationships and understanding that, because that partnership works, right? So learning from each other, guiding each other, and having knowing our strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, so then from then on, it was, having the business plan in our back pocket, going around, meeting as many people as we can. At the same time, we were also looking for a location because it seemed that the food businesses and in our market studies that we would look at with different businesses and saying, it's like, okay, look, we're doing this. Would you be interested in something like that? It's like, yeah, of course. But where is it going to be? Right. So that was always the question.
Location.
Exactly. Right. So realizing that, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's the idea that where you are situated tells you a lot about yourself and about the potential of the place as well. So if you're, let's say, somewhere way out in Canada or whatever, almost Stittsville, they're like, maybe, right? People are like, well, okay, I see what you mean. So it was a big thing that to find the right place. So it took us quite a while, probably about a year and a half looking, and we saw probably about 4 or 5 different spots. And of course, a spot that was, empty enough and clean enough that, you could go in, do all the remodeling and the construction to build a kitchen, because of course you have to follow a lot of different regulations on what you need. And so that was really interesting. And so I was always like looking at real estate signs, right? Commercial real estate. Oh, what is that? What is that? Yeah, what is that? And then trying to find the right price. And,
Sure.
And yeah, it was like a hound dog sort of thing, looking around like, oh, look, there's one over there. Okay, let's see and check it out. It's like, hey, can I check out the space? And
It sounds to me like you enjoyed all aspects of the process.
yeah.
Of of establishing this thing.
Definitely, yeah, no,
From
definitely.
the paperwork
I
to
threw everything in, right? The whole passion. I realized that that you have to do something. You have to get into it as much as you can, right? And and at the same time, I had a day job as well, so it was something. But my business partner as well did, and so this was something that for us, we like, this is what pays the bills and puts food on the table is the day job sort of thing, and so. It was a bit of a balancing act. It was quite the balancing act to work with that. Still, it's always a big struggle, right? Going to the day job and then later on doing all the other stuff, the logistics and any accounting and all that other side business. But the way I think we worked it and understanding that we can't be 100% of the time. And this was something that people asked a lot too in the investors, like, oh yeah, but you're not putting all your time into it, right? Like, so how are you going to make it work? It's like, well, we're going to try some things, right? And I think we, like Dave and I, we kind of look at each other and we're like, yeah, well, you can always sleep when you're dead sort of thing.
True.
Right? That's the other thing. It's like, yeah. And I think there was one point, maybe probably about the first 6 months of the business, realizing the effort that it takes to run one of these things and like what you need to stay on top of. I realized like, okay, yeah, I am sacrificing. I feel like there's some years of my life being lost because of just not really the stress, but like the time that you spend into it, that you're not sleeping and, and it's kind of like the whole, oh my goodness, like I only have 4 hours of sleep or 3 hours of sleep here and stuff like that. Just to get some things done because sometimes there's deadlines they have to finish or you want to. With business is a lot about timing. So like you need this in so that you can get this part through or for example, even like paying certain bills, like you can pay a bill at this point and you realize like, okay, well, if I pay it just a little bit later, it still gets in, but then it gives me a bit of time to actually get some money to pay that bill sort of thing, right? So it's a lot of like this time management of like cash flow, which is pretty amazing. How you just like throwing money and moving money around. And, it's quite something. So, like I have a wonderful supportive wife that helps me out and she's like, oh, well, you should sleep sooner. Like, yeah, I should. And, and then she also like pokes me in the ribs and be like, you know what, let's relax on the business. Let's spend some family time and, and that stuff. So it's, that's always necessary. Right. And like both Dave and I have quite very strong family support, which is really great. So that's a big thing. So realizing that, the time that you spend and the time that you spend on it, I accepted the notion. It's like, all right, that's okay. I'm doing something I really enjoy. If it knocks off years of my life, you could almost say it's a little bit fatalist.
Wow.
Right? Because it is. You do. You get gray hairs, you get all this, but I'm having fun, right? That's the biggest thing, what counts. Right? And I'm passionate about it, and
you're contributing to the community, and you're creating that.
Exactly.
When you guys did eventually find a venue,
the location,
location, what was the challenge afterwards? I mean, so did you secured investment prior to or after?
Almost around the same time.
Okay.
We were always looking and figuring it out, and then we're like, okay, look, now we have this place. This is the one that looks like this really good. We even brought some prospective investors to the space, right? That we had selected. And be like, look, this is what we're thinking. This is the idea. So one of my fun things that I did is I took up that software program called Sketchup.
Okay.
And so with Sketchup, I took it and I said, all right, let's model the place. And this is all the engineering design work. And just like, okay, this wall is here and then the stove is here and all this stuff. And so organizing it all that way was really cool. And so I've made hundreds of different iterations of like, well, what happens if we move it here? So that was really good. And so we were able to visualize what we wanted. And this was also a way that we could visualize to investors as well. So bringing them in and being like, okay, look, this is what we're, bringing them into the space and saying, this is what is here and here and here. So some of the struggles though that we had were mostly like trying to find all the investment, as much investors as we can. And at the same time, then trying to organize ourselves for, the remodeling, right? Like the construction part of it. And so it's interesting. There's a real weird process where the equipment, and it's actually the food that you want to make in the kitchen decides the types of equipment and how the kitchen is laid out, right? Okay. So because we wanted to be as generic as possible, because it's not like, oh no, we're not just making Chinese food, or we're not just making Italian food sort of thing. If you have those types of menus, then you say, okay, well, we need this, this, and this for pieces of equipment, for commercial kitchen equipment. But we said, no, like we're not that, right? We're trying to be a catch-all so that people can come in and be like, oh yeah, this would be useful for me and not, right? And to make it as generic as possible so that more people can enjoy the space. As many people can enjoy the space. So that's one thing that I looked at and like, okay, and so this is what the iterations. And so that was a real struggle to try to kind of design the space and then to get the right people to kind of certify it, because it has to be also regulated, right? Wow. So you needed an engineer to do a lot of this type of work. Unfortunately, I'm not certified to do that stuff. It would have been great and a lot cheaper, but sure. But that's a different field, right? And so yeah, that profession holds the reins in a lot of different things, right? They can say yes or no to a lot of stuff.
They've got pull.
They do, right? So working with the engineer and working with the kitchen designer was something that was quite. It's iterative, right? So there's a lot of processing and back and forth, and so I found that in this time period there was a lot of like lag in the sense of, okay, you send a change request, and then it's just like, okay, then a week comes by and like, oh, okay, we'll make that change, right? And they're like, okay, well, what about this part of it? And then like the back and forth just took a lot of time. And so we wanted to start as early as possible, because at the same time, we were also drumming up a lot of activity and interest, right? Yeah. We had, I think, almost 2 years before we even opened our doors, we had this info night where we had an amazing, I think, 25 different businesses come. Oh. And the space...
Like who?
Yeah, so there was like food businesses. Yeah. Well, there's just people who were interested. First of all, there was a few that already had a food business established, but most of the people who were really curious on what this was. So for us, it was quite something, right? It's just like, oh wow,
validation for
validation for the concept, right, and the idea. So that really pumped us up, and like, okay, this is great, and we showed that to investors, and we had a couple also investors who came and met some of these food businesses, like, oh yeah, what are you thinking of, right? So to help them make the decisions, like, okay, yeah, I see where my money's going to be going to. So it was pretty amazing to see that this info night. And the incredible thing was, like, the space was just this concrete box. It didn't even have lights. We had to bring in lights and plug the like an extension cord from another space, and so people were like, "Oh, okay." And so I had painted along on this floor the layout of what the kitchen would look like. It was like, okay, this is what we're thinking here and here and here. So we're always pre-visualizing, right, and helping other people understand it by visualizing it as well. And so that helped a lot. And people were like, "Oh, wow." So it's like, okay, yeah, well, in 6 months' time, it's potential that we had open. And then 6 months went by, and then another like 8 months went by. And so it was quite something, to get that. Yeah.
But the momentum, I'm sure the interest was still there from the general public.
There was. That's right. And so our email box was always filling up. It's like, oh, I saw we had our website up. So like, oh yeah, I saw that you're doing this. When are you opening? I was like, we don't know yet. Maybe in 6 months, right? We're always like saying, in 6 months from now, 6 months from now, right? Even after 6 months, 6 months from now. So it was really interesting to figure out when we could start, right? We had a little bit of hiccups with like the construction part of it, or like the design part of it. Eventually, too, we decided, like, okay, you know what? I think we need to hire an architect. And then we wanted to expand and do some real interesting modeling of the space and
Wow.
and like add another floor sort of thing. And it's just like, okay, how much will this cost? And looking for the money. And eventually, what happened was that we got the funding with loans and investment that dictated exactly what we could do. So we were quite limited on the construction of what we could do. So the construction itself took about 3.5 months to complete. But once it finished, like getting all the inspections and all that type of stuff was just incredible. Like going in and just like, okay, what's next, right? What's next? Can you do? Is this done? Is this done? Right? Are you painting here? Right? Plumbing and electricity and all. It was just the flurry of activity that was in this space, and it was quite something. It was quite something.
During the process, and I know it's a long one, right?
Yeah.
From the pitch to the paperwork to location, and the construction.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you felt like, this is not going to work out? Was there ever a bump on the road where you guys felt like maybe this wasn't
viable? Yeah, definitely. There were some moments when we had, when we were convinced that we had got some investment from some particular people, and we were really excited. It's like, okay, they're about to commit to us. This is going to be really exciting. If they commit, we can start construction like within less than a couple of weeks. And suddenly, like, just kind of like these people disappeared, sort of thing. I'm just like, oh, what's going on? Like, really? Gone, right? And we'd call them and try to get some information from them, and it's just like, no, it's gone, right? Like, I don't know. So we had these things, and sort of just like, oh my God, are we really gonna do this, right? And so there were these moments that are just like, the other moments too is like signing a lot of like the bank loans and things. It's just like, really, whoa, that's a lot of money I have to pay back, right? Like, how can I do this? Like, are we ready to do this, right? So you had these moments like, holy smokes. And, I don't own a house, so it's not like I've had to pay like, like a big mortgage or something like that. I've never had to sign that. So this was like my big, huge investment sort of thing, and getting into that debt that most business owners are in.
That's
right?
always, that's a scary.
It is a scary point.
Right.
Yeah. And so, you kind of take a deep breath and be like, all right, and confident. It's like, yeah, you know what? These things, they come and go, right? Like sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But if you put the effort into it, right, you'll see it, right? You'll see it when it doesn't happen. And so, you take that deep breath and then sign on the line, right? And like, all right, let's do this, right? And you commit and then move on.
Right.
So, so there are moments, there were. And then even at some points too, like my business partner and I, we would sit down and be like, look at each other and be like, all right, are we ready for this or not, right? It's like, how do you feel, right? And we'd always have a good check with each other and be like, you know what? I'm nervous. I was like, okay, that's good. It's important that you're nervous, means, it's something that's important to you. So what is it what we can do, right? Like, how do we work through this? So It
sounds like you guys are great business partners from
I think we are,
from the way you're describing the working relationship, it sounds like you guys are truly a good team, yeah?
I think so. It's been right now almost 4 years that we've been like hanging out with each other, getting to know each other, and like seeing what our strengths and weaknesses are, seeing where, like, okay, yeah, I can do this, can you do that? And, supporting each other when we can. At moments too, like I'd be like, oh my God, I need to put some more in this, and so we kind of uplift each other as well, right? And showing that we're serious about what we're doing and things. So it's important. It's like I said, like the type of partnership where you have to work together as a team.
Right.
And I think we've been working together very well with it. Yeah. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Yeah.
It's a cool initiative. Tell us what are some of the local who are the clients and customers that frequent this space?
Yeah, definitely.
The shared space.
So, in general terms, we practically have a lot of different types of food businesses. So from baking, from catering, and we have a baker who comes in regularly, Savory Pursuits, and they are They're artisanal bakers. They make incredible fruit pies and meat pies, and you can find them anywhere in like the different farmers markets all summer long. It's quite something. So yeah, so they're in the Cauldron Kitchen a lot, and they make some amazing food. So I'm really happy about this client. And one of the other things too, the proprietors are Paul and Bonnie. And they came to us quite early in the process after we had just finished the kitchen. And they approached us like, oh, wow, we like what you're doing. And one of the things that they liked about what we were up to is the whole idea of this shared resource. And they realized that was golden for them, right? Because, yeah, they don't need the kitchen all the time, right? And so when they are in there, they see the potential and they meeting with other people and the collaborating too that happens with the different clients. We have caterers. We have Tandoori Fusion, which is Indian Pakistani fusion catering. We have Detroit Soul Food, which is Ghost Kitchen. Ghost Restaurant. Okay. And the Ghost Restaurant, that model is that he doesn't own seats essentially, but all the food is delivered. So it's almost like a delivery service, right? And so he creates his food and then was able to go out and so you can go and follow him on Uber Eats. So every evening he's in there and Uber Eats, and you can get good, soul food.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like deep fried chickens and waffles, and it's delicious. Yeah, it's really great. We also have Gung Fu Bao is in our space, and so he's a street food cart. He's used our space a lot for his catering. And also last summer and in the winter too, he was using the Cauldron for. He had a spot at the farmers markets, and so he would use the spot to make his food there. And so a lot of really interesting. And Gung Fu Bao does the steam buns. Okay. Yeah. We have a really interesting client who uses the kitchen more for storage. The business name is Veggie Drop, and essentially she's an online farmers market. So what she does is she brings in local food from different local produce from different farmers, and as well as different products, organic products, and that's the big thing for her is it's all the products are organic. And the pitch on this is that she can by buying the stuff in bulk, then she can sell it cheaper to her customers, and at the same time she delivers right to the door. So customers who enjoy organic food, they can go onto this really nice website that she has, and it's veggiedrop.com, I believe. And so you can go to it and say, yep, I want this, and this, right? Just like see the product, see the price, and then she delivers them I believe it's on either the Saturdays or the Sundays. So one amazing thing about what she's doing is that she's bringing a lot of people in together, and she's saying, oh yeah, you have a really interesting product, as she walks into the Cauldron, right? And saying like, oh yeah, that's an interesting product. Do you think I could get some samples and try to see if some of my customers would be interested in it? And of course, the people are like, yeah, this is great, right? So now there's like this other new venue, right, for other revenue stream using her service of like delivering this food to customers' doors.
So there's a entrepreneurial synergy,
a lot of collaboration.
That is very cool, man.
And you know what?
That is awesome.
Garmamie, that's like when I go into the Cauldron and it's busy, right? Like people are mixing here and people are like washing here and people are like scrubbing, doing all these different things that are happening in the kitchen. And it's like, oh, how's it going? It's like, oh, guess what? Yeah, like that yesterday I was in the kitchen and I met with this guy who was working in the kitchen too, and we're going to start something together. We're like, oh, really? That's awesome, right? So this whole spirit of collaboration and this shared, like using the space as a shared space has been really incredible.